Hello, everyone. Welcome. It's Alicia Brashay here at Cosmic Gateway in conjunction with World Unity Week. And I am so excited to have with me here. I have Steve Nobel from the Soul Matrix. And this is the first time that I've ever been able to connect with you, but I've heard so many wonderful things about your work. And of course, I'm familiar with your work, but I hear from people who are connected to you and your clients that you're really like a father to Starseeds and a wonderful mentor. um, and so we're going to be having a discussion talking about my two very favorite topics. We're going to be discussing Starseeds and Ascension. So, Steve, welcome and thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Alicia. You're on the other side of the world, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm in Melbourne in Australia.
Melbourne.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's probably hot there. It's warm here in England anyway. I'm in the south coast of England, and it's nice and sunny morning here.
Oh, I'm a little bit jealous because we've hit a really cold burst now. Yeah, down in Melbourne, down the south, it's quite cold and in winter anyway. But we had a sunny day today. It was like, oh, just having that sunshine really helps at the moment.
Yeah. Well, England's waking up. The sun's coming. It's getting summer. It's like, yeah, everyone's out after all this gloomy, COVID wintery type of thing. Now people are coming out and having fun, which is so nice to see.
Which is so great because you guys really got hit hard through your winter and for a really long period of time with the current global events and circumstances with lockdowns and things like that. So you must be really enjoying the freedom and getting out and
yeah. I mean, when the restaurants and cafes started opening, and I looked through the windows, seeing, oh, there's people inside, sitting inside. It's like as if it's the most miraculous thing ever, And now it's like, yeah, but this is normal. But after being locked out for months, like you couldn't go inside anywhere, and there are still, personally, I think some ridiculous rules, that still going on. So that down along the coast, there's this food hall, and there's loads and loads of benches outside, but even though it's outside, they insist that you wear a mask to walk to the bench. And then when you sit down on the bench, you can take the mask off. But I said, we're in the open air. They went, oh no, but we have the rules. And I'm like, I didn't know about that. That's a new rule. People are making up rules. I think the government are making up rules as well. So the virus can't hit you when you're sitting down, but if you're standing up, it's deadly, all these ridiculous things. Or there was the thing around, what was it? Something around 10 o'clock, it's almost as if the government thought after 10 o'clock, the virus becomes more deadly, but before it's a little bit easier. It's just, I think governments try and do things they got to look like they're doing something, but a lot of these rules are very, very ridiculous, I think.
It kind of is. I mean, what we just, because we've just been in another lockdown, they're slowly starting to change. I don't even know what the rules are. I don't really pay attention. It doesn't impact my life greatly, but then it's now mandatory masks again and all. We got hit pretty hard in Melbourne last year, and it's sort of because of the colder months, we're kind of going back into that extreme conditions. But we recently had a massive flood come through my area, where a lot of houses and homes were hit with power outages and all that sort of thing. And one of my clients said to me the other day, did you see the evacuation rules for those affected by the flood? And I said, no, I didn't. And she was like, oh no, it was like, make sure you wear your mask, hand sanitizer, wash your hands, social while you're evacuating in a flood in the middle of a storm. And I was just
yeah, that's the thing you got to do. In the middle of a storm, you need your hand sanitizer just to make sure you're all clean and everything. It's ridiculous. Oh, I don't know. So part of the shift, I think this is part of the shift, actually, the ascension shift, is the world is dividing. And you can see this crisis has really put a real dividing line between those who are, I would say, buying the mainstream narrative, which is one of fear.
Yeah.
And just going along with this fearful thing. And I see people walking along the streets with masks on or driving cars with masks on, and they've gone overboard. They're really terrified of these little things in the air that's going to kill them. These little bugs are going to go and get them. And there are others which are questioning the narrative, who are listening to, alternative sources, doctors, scientists who are saying something very different from the mainstream, and are not living in fear. I forget that there is anything out there until
Yeah.
I see people wearing this stuff and I go, oh yeah, there is this stuff that people are buying into. I think it's much more complex than even the narrative is suggesting, and I do personally think there are links with 5G and radiation and all this, actually. And there's a great book called The Invisible Rainbow by someone who's just come out. He's a doctor, making all kinds of links between radiation and electricity to illnesses, including influenza. Apparently influenza only came online when there was a big increase in, I think it was telegraph poles or something, or radio waves or something. So there's all these links between diseases and illnesses and radiation and electricity. And of course, our body is learning to cope with it. But for example, 5G is a massive leap from even 4G. It's massive, and it's going to have an impact on our health. So in my room here, my router's there in a cage, like a Faraday cage, which is like protecting me. The back of my chair, oh, actually, let's go this way, is radiation protection material, so stopping the router from hitting me. I've got all kinds of stuff around my desk, crystals, shungite, organite. Is my I love these organite pyramids with
They're magnificent, aren't they? Yeah.
I've got loads of those. And so I think radiation is important for people to be aware of. But we are witnessing this splitting of dimensions, and the dimensions are what I've called and other people call 3D to 5D. The 3D world is the world we've lived in for thousands of years. It's the world of rocks are hard and water's wet. This is just the way things are. It's us versus them. It's competition. It's dog, eat dog world. It's, if you read the history books of the last 2,000 years alone, it's not been a love and light world, really. It's been very different than that. And it's been the world we're living, or we have lived in, has been a pretty dangerous place, 3D world, which is why we've developed a 3D ego, which is to keep us safe. Our egos are that mechanism within us to go, keep safe, watch out, do I trust them, and all this kind of stuff. And the world shifting, the planet shifting because of the light bombarding the planet now. And I think it's all part of the cycle of time. There's all these calendars, Mayan calendar, Toltec calendar, all these calendars saying that the time of the sixth sun, we're in the time of the sixth sun. And we're shifting into 5D. So 4D, so 3D is us versus them, opposition, growth through opposition, light versus dark. 4D is where we start learning about things like, I live many lifetimes. I'm a spirit in a human body. I have masculine and feminine energies inside of me. There are challenges and lessons to learn. All of these spiritual ideas come out. 5D is a stabilization in a higher vibration. It's kind of where we're stabilizing in this Christ conscious field, which is really impacting the planet now, where it's not one of the things of 4D is I create my reality. That's one of the key things, which is like a very new idea. When I first heard it, I was like, what's that? How do I create my reality? What do you mean? And I played out with car parking spaces and car parking angels and go, there are angels interested in parking my car. This is amazing that there's a universe with angels. I wouldn't want to be a parking angel. I'd want a more interesting job, like, helping the sun be radiant or something. I don't know. Anyway, so you learn all these things, and I tried it out for years going, this is incredible. And I did all kinds of weird experiments with that. I trained in shamanism and Wicca. I did all kinds of rituals. Even the ancient people knew that we can bend reality, like rain dances and sun dances and all this. So they knew that even the weather could be bent and changed. So 5D, we stopped doing the mantras. We stopped doing all the vision boarding. Our vibration creates. So nowadays, which I'm more stabilized, I think in 5D, I'm more, wouldn't it be nice to, actually there was one that happened the other day. I was thinking of a friend I've lost touch with 5 years ago. She went traveling, and I thought, wouldn't it be nice to reconnect with her? And then it was either the same day or the next day, I saw on Facebook, she's changed her name. She's got some kind of Osho name, so I didn't recognize it. I've got like 900 friend requests that I'm still waiting to plow through. And then I saw this one, and it was her. I'm like, hey, we've reconnected. And I'm WhatsApped her and we reconnected. So it becomes more like that. Wouldn't it be nice to go to Barcelona and run a retreat? Wouldn't it be nice? And that's how it happens, rather than I've got to do a vision boarding, I've got to manifest, I've got to focus, and all of this. So the world is shifting into 5D. There's a lot of, part of the shift is starseeds, which is the other part of what we're talking about. So
can you give your overview of like your definition of starseeds? Because I think it's really good, because I think the people tuning in and watching this, some would be, you know, well seasoned, you know, ascensioners and know their origins and all that. And I think some people watching are probably very new to the concept, so it'd be really great to hear, you know, your definition of it, and you have such a well-rounded, grounded way of explaining things. So anyway, I won't interrupt anyone.
If anyone's following Cosmic Gateway, and if anyone's interested in Cosmic Gateway, it's almost 100% certain that they're a starseed. I don't think you're going to be attracting anyone who's not, or the soul matrix. We're just too weird for the rest of the world. You know, and now after years of kind of sitting with people, I can kind of tell by people's energy, body language, just as soon as they open their mouth or as soon as they look at me, I get a feeling, oh, right, okay. And I get a lot of people emailing me, go, tell me, am I a starseed? And I'm like, you know, if you're following me for 3 years now, then why are you asking me this question, really? Of course you are. So starseeds are basically old souls that are not native to this planet. There's most of the souls on the planet are native here, meaning they've been here. I mean, everyone's a starseed, you could say at core, but if you've been here for thousands and thousands of years and you've been stuck in this reincarnational cycle, then you forget your true nature. You forget, you've been through so many wars, so many slavery, colonization, so many plagues that you go, well, the world is difficult and dangerous, and you forget your true nature. But starseeds come in from a different place. It's almost like in Britain, you know, for hundreds and hundreds, or maybe a few thousand years, you know, the Brits were basically all white, you know, Anglo-Saxon, and then suddenly in the 50s, you got people from the Caribbean and people from India, and suddenly you got, who are these people, you know, and they come in with different ideas, different energies. Starseeds are a bit similar. Starseeds come into this world with a very different perspective and way of looking at things, a different energy, and they have a different gifts in their energy field. You could say different DNA that's ready to come online. So starseeds look at the world and go, this world is something wrong with the way this world's being run. It's not right. And of course, when starseeds plop out of the birth canal, they don't usually remember everything. It takes a time for it to come online and go, oh, maybe I do remember some other lifetimes. Maybe I remember, you know, Lemuria. That's interesting. I don't know why, but I need to look at it. Or Atlantis. That resonates. I don't know why. I've got to find out. Why am I here? I don't know. And there's all this kind of waking up to something. And so I've got 2 brothers who are not starseeds, and they're like, Steve, why are you searching, looking for? Why don't you just go on holiday like us? Why don't you just get your job like us? And I'm like, restless. No, there's something there's an itch that I've got to find out. And of course, non-starseeds don't understand it, but starseeds look at the world and go, this world could be so different. They're very interested in futuristic, very interested in sci-fi, very interested in science fantasy, which of course science fantasy becomes reality. Some of them are very interested in technology. You know, there's a whole load of kids now interested in cyberspace and cyber warriors, anonymous, and all that lot. Some of them, a lot of them are drawn, certainly in the early days, were drawn to the arts because you could be weird as a singer. David Bowie could be weird.
Yeah, right.
But David Bowie would not be tolerated in some factory easily with his hair and his makeup and everything. You can have a Jimi Hendrix go into singing, and you can, because they can expand the box, and the time was right for them to expand. But after the very conservative 50s, you have all these, the 60s, Flower Power was a starseed movement. And you have all these singers and Woodstock and all of this, and they're, you know, love, peace man, and this is very starseed. But of course, there are forces on the planet that don't really like change. They like things to be the same. And so there are these forces that push back against the starseeds. You know, let's have a world of love and light. And, you know, in America, you had the Nixon regime who went, no, we don't want that. We want the Vietnam War, actually. Thank you. And So that's what we're contending with, our old forces that are used to doing things a certain way, which includes war, which includes grabbing resources. And we're still seeing it. You know, in recent years, we've seen Britain and America go charging, and probably Australians, I think, might have been part of it, I guess. We're charging in the Middle East, you know, Iraq and all that. Yeah, we must go and invade these countries and bomb them because why? Well, I don't know if we forget why, but we must do it. You know, there's a reason. And, you know, it's just really ridiculous that I think what's going to happen on the timeline is, I think Cryon said this, the channel Cryon said that one of the markers of the shift is when wars stop. And we haven't hit that particular marker yet, but that's coming, because when you have a world that stops making war with each other, then all kinds of other possibilities open up. But the moment so much energy goes into war and conflict and armaments and all of this, when that stops, imagine the incredible amount of energy that can go into other things, like let's clean up the oceans, let's stop building armies, let's recreate the planet, let's make it a beautiful place, let's start working together. Oh, that's radical. Working together. But the world is moving towards working together anyway. The internet is one of cooperation. It's now, we're out of the industrial age, which was about competition. It's now cooperation, but governments are still lagging behind. They're going, no, we must fight each other. And this is ridiculous, of course. So Starseeds come in with a number of missions. Some of them come in as light workers, some of them come in to awaken DNA, some of them come to work on ley lines, some of them come to create new healing systems, some of them come into the music. Music's full of starseeds, and even Hollywood now. Hollywood's a pretty dark place, actually, for a long while. But you've got
there's a mixture in there, you know. Yeah.
You got films like Avatar, and you got films which are coming out like The Matrix, which are like light is peeping through all that old darkness, you know. We're not interested in all the John Wayne war films anymore, or the Armageddon, you know, the Armageddon, the world's going to blow up, with the Terminator films, all these kind of things. Now you have the dystopian future, the Blade Runners and all this kind of thing. But actually there are films, what was it, Arrival? Well, I loved Arrival. You remember that one? Or there was Interstellar. Oh, there's a lot of movies now talking about time being cyclical, that the future is coming back to help the past, which is happening now, that actually there are energies from the future coming back now. Crop circles, I believe, are energies from our future coming back, going, you know, this is the way, don't go that way, go this way. And so that we have a lot of helpful energies. There's more spiritual teachers on the planet now than probably in our whole history ever. You've got so much choice now in terms of spirituality, that when I started waking up in the 90s, it was like not much around, but now it's like the internet, and you've got YouTube, and you've got all these wonderful things. So there are a lot of starseeds. They still need help. I think I'm one of the advanced guard. They're advanced guard. I'm one of the older. I'm in my 60s now. So I came to kind of help the new waves with what I'm doing, start the YouTube channel and everything, going, here's a load of material, have a listen, orientate yourself in this world, and get going on your mission. So that's what I'm here for.
That your material and resources are so valuable for starseeds, in giving them the basic toolkit and to get them going and help navigate different energies. And, you know, I think it's no wonder that you have such a large following on YouTube, because it's such an important resource. And, you know, and just so much gratitude for your work in being one of those. I don't know, would you consider yourself a first waver or second waver?
I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. The 1950s was not really very enlightened time to come on the planet. I often thought it'll be more fun to come now. I'm not sure what kind of wave I am really, but
and just in Dolores Cannon's work, she kind of.
Oh yeah. I met her a few times, and yeah, it's very strange. She looks like my grandmother type of, sitting in this odd armchair in a workshop talking about aliens. And I looked at her thinking, it's so weird. She should be doing like knitting or crocheting, like not talking about this stuff. But her books are quite revolutionary. She's a lovely person, actually. But one of the things I decided to do was to make all the material free. So YouTube and all these other Insight Timer, SoundCloud, it's free because it's necessary for it to be free, so that people can freely access it and share it if they want to share it, or go there in time. One thing I don't want to do is lock people into expensive programs, because that's not, and I do see people doing it, and I see Starseeds doing it, but I think what they're doing is honoring their own abundance. But in a way, I don't see that fulfilling the mission, really. Yeah, it's great to have, you know, someone told me there were, someone was offering mentoring place, £10,000 per place for a year's mentoring. And that's great, 20 places, that gives you a load of money, but that means you reach 20 people. Maybe you can help them deeply. I want to reach 500,000 people. I don't want to reach 20 people, you know. But I said to the universe, if I do this, can I just pay the rent, please? And the universe said, yeah, all right then. And, you know, I've been well looked after, so I'm not complaining.
You know, I love that. And I think that's a really important message to share for people who might be listening, in the sense that when you're following your path and you are being generous, there is ways that it comes back around, you know. And it's about having an abundant consciousness and you know, thought process. And I think that, I know for me personally, that challenge of getting out of scarcity into abundance was a massive program that I had to hack within myself, you know, to realize, you know, that flow effect of giving and receiving, and that flow. But it's beautiful. And I know with a lot of my work, I've always had the thing with clients and sessions is that I want to honor to be able to pay my way, but at the same time I want it to be accessible to the average person, because I know when I was in my dark nights of the soul and all that, I had no money, I had nothing, you know. And you tend to attract those that are on a similar path, so that, you know, you might be a few years ahead or however long ahead, so that you can help them navigate through what they're going through. So I really honor that in what you share. It's just magnificent.
I think abundance is one of those key lessons that a lot of people have come to learn. I know I was born in a working class family in London, and all my family struggled with money. And I went to work in banking, but I had a mortgage, but I was struggling with money. It's like you're juggling, and I've struggled till about my late 50s when I started this work. And then suddenly it all started shifting. And I asked the universe, can you just tell me what I need to do, please? And they gave me a 5D abundance transmission, which I've kind of used in my own life a lot. And the idea is that money as an energy is not clean. It's dirty. It contains billions of people's projections of anger, of greed, of resentment, of disappointment. And so when starseeds go, I want more money, basically it's an energy flow. It's not just like coins, it's an energy flow as well. And you're taking in the the stuff of it. And so what I asked one day, I asked Spirit, I was living in a community struggling with money, and the answer that came back was water is dirty, but you need water. And I was actually standing right next, I had this not a water filter, it's one of those where you boil water and it purifies it, you know, those, what you call those, those systems. And it kind of said, look at that, you clean the water and you drink it. Do the same with money. I was like, oh, clean money. So actually in the meditation, I created this whole thing about cleaning it up. So you expand the channel, but you put filters of ultraviolet fire over it, so that whatever comes through is cleaned. So actually the money that passes through me is cleaned, and I can pass it on and be generous, you know. So part of what I've done with the money is build a social media site on my own website. So I've got 10,000 people on there. So I've invested money in this social media site, which is like a kind of mini Facebook type of thing. And there's a resource library. So I can actually invest money in these things, which actually become resources for people. But, you know, for me, my children think, because they're not starseeds, they go, Dad, you're weird. This is weird. What you're doing is a bit weird. But I'm generous with them. And because I'm so generous, they go, Dad, it must be working for you. You're so generous with us. And so they've changed their tone a little bit more, you know. And my son actually looked on YouTube the other day and he listened to one of my interviews that was on there, and he goes, Dad, it's my partner was listening. She started laughing, goes, he's changed his tune. He started laughing. He started saying, Dad, it's amazing. You just answered all these questions just like that. And it's incredible. And then he started citing back what I said. And I've never, ever heard him say that to me ever. This was a revelation yesterday when he gave all this. And that's like, maybe my children are changing. Maybe they're thinking, Dad's not so weird. Sorry?
Was that a real moment for you?
Yeah, that was amazing to see because my children have always considered me crazy. My ex-wife, who I'm still connected to because we still parent our children and grandchildren, she used to say to me, "What cult are you into?" And now she said, "What cult are you in now?" That was a just standing joke. Now, because there's a shop called Waitrose in England, and it's kind of more expensive, organic food. And I kind of tease her now. Well, now I go to the Waitrose where the rich people go, you know, and we kind of tease her endlessly about where the rich people go, because now I'm a bit more abundant. I can go and buy organic food all the time, you know. So they're changing their tune because even though they don't understand completely what I'm doing, I think they're appreciating it more. And the fact that I'm reaching I've got 4 grandchildren, and the eldest one, the eldest 2 goes, "That's cool, Granddad. You've got 127. That's cool." And one of the granddaughters went and liked loads of mine. She didn't listen to anything. She just liked them all, which I thought was cute.
Oh, that is so adorable. And it's so nice to hear you talk on a personal level of what it's like in your life, you know, because what would you say is the on average ratio of starseed per family, per bloodline and lineage? And how is that changing over the decades? I mean,
So
just
when I
as
came on,
ballpark.
when I came on the planet, I would say less than, not even 1% were starseeds. Probably 0.01 starseeds. You know, a tiny percentage of 1% were starseeds. Now around how many would be starseeds? Maybe several percent of starseeds on the planet. We're hitting a number of markers. So one of the calendars, Toltec calendars, says they talk about the end of the 5th sun and the beginning of the 6th sun.
Every time you say that, it runs chills through my body. So please talk about it more.
The beginning of the 6th sun happened in July 91, and that was the year I woke up, 91. The point where the 5th sun and 6th sun were equal in power was the 21st of December 2012. That point, they were equal in power. So a lot of people going, "Hey, the world's going to change tomorrow." No, this is a choice point. Which way are you going to go? This May, I think 26th of May of this year, was when a major marker of the 6th sun increasing in power and going way beyond the 5th sun. And this is the time when people really have to make the choice, where the dimensions are splitting. You either go love, unity, or you go fear. And where that timeline goes, I believe, is, and a lot of people are going to follow that timeline because they're not done with it. But that timeline eventually is an unpleasant timeline. It's like, do you want more war, more tyranny, more control? That's where it goes. But some people are choosing it because they say, well, we're not done with it. We need to learn. And they're learning there. It's not that it's a bad choice or a wrong choice. It's a choice that they have to make because they're still learning on that path. So for starseeds, it's now time to put both feet in the 5D world. There was a time where you could put one foot in the normal world and one foot in the spiritual world. Do your workshops at the weekend and go back to that horrible job or whatever, or, you know, be in a horrible relationship and do the odd workshop. Now you can't do that anymore. It's not so easy. You have to make choices around work and relationships. You can't really be married to someone who's going to block your path. If they may not be a starseed, but they have to be open to you. If they effectively block you, you have to make a choice about that. And if you're in a corporate job where the energy is toxic, you're going to have to make choices around these things. You know, I got spat out, and a lot of starseeds are getting spat out of those places because the universe is going, you are getting out of there, and things may even get worse for a time for the starseeds. And they're going, oh my God, I've got an anal boss. I'm being put under all these deadlines, and I've met a lot of clients talking that way. And I said, the universe is kicking you out of those places. Your vibration can't tolerate that toxic environment. So this is where we're at, the sixth sun, and starseeds now have to choose their path, have to get on their path. And it doesn't mean you become an author and a world speaker. It could be just you're doing work in your community. You're working, you know, radiating light to people you meet. It can be very simple, but it's important. It's a group effort. It's not like a guru's coming or an avatar's coming. The whole second coming is the awakening of the starseed light, and starseeds are anchoring the light from the sun and also the emerging light from the earth, and they're anchoring it into this reality, which is why we need starseeds. Otherwise the earth would probably destroy itself, and you know, the planet would ascend, but the humanity would go somewhere else, because but starseeds are here to help. That humanity continues, the human race continues in a better way.
You've just summarized that so beautifully and perfectly, and I would agree with you. I mean, I got ejected in 2015. That was my abrupt out you go.
From the corporate world, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had you know, juggled, you know, one foot in each world for a decade or more, and it was like, oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
It's time to be weird.
yeah. I mean, I was always that weirdo. I mean, even in my corporate jobs, everyone knew that I was that weirdo, that if they had any bizarre questions, go speak to her because she'll probably know. I was very open about it, you know, but it just gets weirder and weirder. I don't,
Yeah. I think even if you try and hide it, people will suspect. They'll know, they're just by your energy. So if you're born into a 3D family, your parents may love you, your siblings may love you, but they'll know you're different. They just know it. You may not even open your mouth about anything too strange, but they just know your energy is different to them.
yeah.
People feel it. You can go into a party and you may say nothing, but people will feel you're different.
Yeah. It's you know, even people who don't realize that they're energy sensitive can still pick up on things and interpret in certain ways. So I mean, I was so blessed. My dad's a starseed through and through, and he was my first teacher. I mean, from the age of, since I can remember, he was educating about ET races. So I mean, I chose well.
That's cool. That's cool.
But I don't think most of our family get us. Me and Dad have you know, we have an understanding. We can talk about a lot of things, but the rest of the family are like, oh, what are they on about, you know? So
to have a starseed parent is a real blessing, and I think most starseeds these days are coming into families where there's at least one starseed parent, usually the mother, because you're, you know, being born through the mother, but it can be the father. I've met people who have a father starseeds like yourself. In my parents, neither were. I actually think that I had a walk-in experience when I was a teenager where another aspect come in, and of course these walk-in experience, some starseeds will go through this. Walk-in experiences are tough. Basically, it's a bit like Steve at the age of 16 has kind of had enough, you know, and we're gonna just upgrade and have another, we'll swap. He can leave and another part can come in. So at 16 I went through a kind of I don't know, I became reclusive. I was very outgoing, you know, captain of the sports team, that kind of thing, very academic. At the age of 16 or 17, I think it was, I stopped doing my A levels. I just became reclusive. I just started getting really interested in spirituality. It was before I was interested in sci-fi and Star Trek, but not really spirituality. So I had a bit of a shift. And then I had another one in 2010, which preceded all this work. And that threw me into a dark night of the soul for 6 years.
I've heard
very
you
difficult.
speak about that on the interview, and I went, whoa, 6 years.
Yeah.
That's intense.
Very difficult. Very intense. And that taught me about the dark side, because I didn't really know or believe so much about the dark side. You know, I didn't believe there were hell realms. I didn't believe, you know, I didn't know about lower astral, because I'd done a lot of shamanic traveling and I never found the lower astral. But this dark night of the soul went, here it is. And it's like, oh my gosh, it's horrible. And it took me 6 years to get out of it. But now I can talk about the light and the dark, because I've seen the dark. Not just, I'm not talking about it as a theory. I've been kicked by the dark very badly. and survived, thankfully. Because I think there are forces on the planet that do want to keep, as I said, the way things are, keep it the way things are, keep the kind of war and the whole thing going. And starseeds are playing a different game. And so some starseeds are feeling even psychically attacked, you know, because of beings and lower astral forces that go, we know who you are and we don't like you very much. And those kind of attacks can get worse for people who are more public. You know, it can happen. So you learn about spiritual hygiene and psychic self-defense. I've learned psychic astral karate, you know, you know, I've learned how to defend myself in, you know, in all kinds of ways. And the dark side are cunning and they know different ways to attack people. So a lot of starseeds are learning about psychic defense and psychic hygiene. And really the best defense is keep your vibration high. It's very simple. Keep your vibration high, stay connected to spirit and the emerging grid in the planet, crystalline grid. And I call a lot of these angels, you know, all of the whole resources is basically keep your energy high. There's different methods to keep it high and also to protect yourself and keep your energy high. So if you do that, you're going to be all right. There's no need to be afraid of the dark. I'm not afraid of the dark at all, really. I'm mindful of the dark. The dark is a bit like a cornered animal, wounded animal, and it's dangerous, but wounded, and it's on its way out. But we have to be mindful. Don't go prodding the dark. Don't go fighting the dark. I'm going to defeat those guys. You know, I've met starseeds who are going, I'm going to attack the Illuminati. I'm going to make public. I'm going, no, don't do all that. You know, they're on their way out. Just do what you've come here to do. Don't go fighting the dark. Some starseeds do learn about the dark in terms of helping to neutralize the dark. It's the Hogwarts Dark Arts class, you know, which I had in the Dark Night of the Soul. So some people are here to neutralize the dark. That doesn't mean you fight the dark, because fighting the dark is not neutralizing it, it's empowering the dark, actually. So we don't fight the dark.
You brought that up because that is such an important topic, especially now on the planet. I don't know if you've sort of noticed this, but I've noticed this increase in sort of things like psychic attack and like a lot of lower astral energies that are kind of just flying around everywhere, and this need to have a much more discerning energy of what's around in the field at the moment. It has been for a while, but it seems like the more the light increases, you know, that darkness does come in, and it is a very real experience for people, and that is part of some people's soul mission and path. So, you know, really important topic to bring up.
Well, it can come in different ways, but the main ways it comes is an individual might take offense, might start hating you, and you start projecting all kinds of stuff at you. That's one way it can happen. Another way it can happen is through groups, corporate. You might be working in a corporate field, and actually the corporate field is an energy. And if you start raising your vibration, the corporate energy might even start attacking you or draining you. People who belong to churches, now people go and pray on their knees to churches, but what they don't realize is the church is a collective energy field that can start hooking into you and draining you. If anyone's on government welfare, taking, you know, social handouts type of thing, be careful that you're not being hooked into by collective energy fields. You know, that can happen. I've experienced it when I was, you know, in my dark night. I was signing on. In England, we say signing on. You kind of get unemployed, you know, for a little while, and then some healer said to me, "You're being corded into by that government thing." And I checked, and I had to cut it all. I think because it's like, we'll give you some money if we can take your energy, and I'm like, no, you're not taking my energy anymore. The other way it can come in is through relationships, especially sexual relationships. You know, if the dark can't attack you directly, what they will do is send what do you call it? The honey trap, isn't it? The honey trap.
Yeah, there's a few names for them, but yeah, that's a good one.
That kind of, in the old 60s, I think they said the Russians would send a honey trap in to trap someone. So it's a bit like that. You might find someone who's your twin flame, and whoa, and now look, they look all lovely, and they come in with all kinds of entities, and bang, you're finding it. So this whole twin flame thing is a problem, because a lot of these people come in are actually coming in, they're not energetically clear or clean, and the dark are using people in the guise of, here's your twin flame, and they are really not anything like that. And yes, it's a great catalyst, because the dark are catalyzing growth. And you know, when we encounter the dark, they make us grow at a super rate, but you know, it's not pleasant. As any empath who's met a narcissist knows, it's not pleasant. You know, you'll grow, but you don't think you'll enjoy it, because you won't. Meeting the narcissist is brilliant, and narcissists usually have entity attachments, because narcissists are often energy vampires. So
I love the way you kind of explain things in that way, because it helps people to maybe broaden their perspectives in understanding the world of energy and how it impacts you in different ways. So it's so important. It really is, especially for empathic people and starseeds, I think.
Oh, empaths, I think I've had workshops where I've said, how many of you empaths have met a narcissist? And probably 3/4 of the room go up, hands go up. Like, yeah, it's common, because empaths sometimes are too open, too trusting, too naive. You know, we love everyone, you know, let's hug everyone. And you have to be a bit more discerning, you know, don't hug everyone. Yes, you can love everyone, but doesn't mean you go and open your field to everyone, you know, because some people will just go. When I was younger, I did watch the old vampire films, and they said, you know, the vampire would come and knock on the door at night, and if you let them in, that was it. They're in. Don't let the vampire through the door. Keep them out. You know, watch there's a lot of wisdom in these old films. You know, I never let them in. Once you go, the empath lets them in. I had a client once, and she said to me, "Oh, I hired this healer. She come and stayed in my house for a week. I picked her up from the airport. She come and stayed. And after a week, she said to me, if you want me to kill your ex-husband, I'll do it for $16,000. And then she realized she let a black magician in. And her life has been really bad ever since. And I did say to her, you let the vampire in the door. That was a big mistake. In your house, in your life. And now you're undoing all of the mess they've made. And don't let you know, these people in, really, basically. You have to be very careful. I'm very careful about what healers I let into my life. You know, of course, doing the work, I do need to have someone make sure I'm clear. And, you know, I have regular body work, and there's 1 or 2 healers that I work with, but I'm even healers I've been hit by. You know, I have to be very careful. So you have to be discerning about who you let into your energy field, basically.
Yeah. So, man, this has just sparked off so many questions, and
we're going around the universe.
Yeah, like, where are we going to go now? But you really touched on so many important topics, and I just want to refer back to your, you know, your website and your YouTube channel, and I will put the links where people can access that, because you have all those resources where people can have guided processes that can help them clear. And some of them you've discussed, the one about money and purifying that and the connection. So go and use that as a resource. Highly recommend that. If some of this content is resonating, or you're having aha moments, go and, you know, get support and find those resources on Steve's YouTube channel and through website. But also, okay, so there's one avenue that I want to go down and talk about, because this is something I'm quite passionate about, is you know, becoming a spiritual entrepreneur. And I know that you work a lot in that space, in guiding and mentoring starseeds to, you know, get out of the matrix and create their own abundance and you know, do their mission work. What is that process like? Can you give an overview of a general overview of what that process is like, of going from, you know, 3D to 5D in a work sense, or, you know, work, what I like to call 3D work, 5D soul mission, to give people a general overview of what that's like, because there's so many mechanics in between of Dark Nights of the Soul, and you know, but can you talk about that a little bit, because I think that's really fascinating, and probably what, you know, would be inspiring for people to hear.
Well, I'm just writing a book called The Spiritual Entrepreneur. Did I tell you that?
I didn't know that. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah, it's
You tie
coming
out
out
with
in
that bit.
September. Actually, I should get
Okay.
your story. Actually, we should chat about it.
Yeah, cool.
And so this book will be out in September, and it's written in 4 sections. And the first section is the threshold, which is like either you're thinking about starting or you've started, and you're at that beginning stage, which is all lovely. It's all wrapped up with the kind of the essence of what you're here to do. It's about your spiritual awakening. It's about how do we bring spirituality into business? How visible do you want to be spiritually in your business, or do you want it to be, you can be more hidden or you can be more overt? It's all about business being a doorway to your inner potential. Potential is like, well, I've heard people say, I want to awaken my inner potential. What is it? I don't know. I want to awaken it. We can only awaken it when we do something, which is like a business is a great way, because when we start, so I didn't know I could do coaching. I didn't know I could do a lot of things until I started doing this business. And then it's a bit like, you know, the Matrix, where I can do Kung Fu. You download it, go, I can do Kung Fu, you know, I can do this thing. I can do podcast interviews. I can do all these kind of things. There are spiritual game rules, which I talk about in the book. The second section is beyond resistance. Now, resistance is a key thing because everyone resists the path. You know, we go, would you like a business that touches 1 million people? You go, yeah. Oh, but I'm a bit scared. I'm a bit like, whoa, you know, I'm going to become visible. Is that okay? I'm coming out the closet. So there's all kinds of things around resistance, around doubt and rejection, and kind of structures of limitation that can actually hold us in place. There's also karmic tension from other lifetimes and bloodlines that can kind of, you know, I remember, my unconscious mind remembers the time I was burnt as a witch. Do I want to do this, become visible? Oh, I'm not sure. There's all that stuff that can come up. There's stuff around courage, what I call it couraging and confidencing, because courage and confidence are not nouns, they're verbs. They're things we do always. It's our thinking, feeling, and doing. It's how we move forward. It's about purposeful direction. How do we know we're on track? What is the right track? Are we on track, or are we 5 degrees off track? How do we know? There's blind spots that we've got to find. Everyone has a blind spot. There's burning bridges, which means for a lot of, if you've worked in the corporate world or in a regular job, and then you become an entrepreneur, you have to destroy this mindset of employee. You have to get rid of it, because at the back of a lot of people's minds is, well, if it doesn't work out, I'll go and get a job back in. For Starseeds, you have to burn that bridge and not go back, because you have to put all your energy in going forward. And then the third section is the muse, which is meeting the muse, which is around, I've talked a little bit about weirdness. Your weirdness is your brilliance. Empathy is your gifts. You know, how to raise the vibe of your business, how to engage the win-win game, how to invoke the muse. The muse is that feminine yin soft energy, which is really not in a lot of businesses. How do we network? How do we deal with creative tension and fusion? So creative tension, not a lot of people talk about creative tension, but creative tension is where so for example, in writing this book, every morning I think I have to finish that chapter. It's like all this kind of, it's tension, it's not finished, and then when I finish it, it's like, oh, I finished that chapter, oh, I can relax. It's a bit like that. Creative fusion is a different process where we bring different elements together to create something new, which is really important. I talk about that in the book. It's about storytelling is really important in business, and that's where the muse comes in as well. The final section is unlimited flow, which talks about you're the magician, you are the visionary, you are guided. It talks about Wu Wei, that Taoist process of the next step is always obvious. It's playing the game, it's being abundant, it's meeting your future self, it's surfing the flow. It's all of those things. So that's the book I'm writing, because I need to remind myself of the journey. Like, I'm in the journey. I need to, because it's more intuitive. And when I write it down, I go, oh yeah, that's exactly it. Or no, it's not quite it. It's not quite finished yet. So the book's for me, and then for everyone else, and also for my kids and grandchildren. Maybe, I'm not sure my kids will become entrepreneurs, but my grandchildren, I'd love if it helps them, and all the starseeds out there that want to run a business, coaching business, therapy business, accounting business, IT angel business, whatever your business is, you can put your vibration through that business and help people. And it's the brilliant vehicle. I mean, it's the most freeing thing not to work for somebody else, to just create your own path with your own business. For me, it's just, why did I wait so long, really?
I said the same thing, you know, and that's why I try and encourage people, you know, because I so deeply resonate. So thank you for sharing those steps and what you're working on. And I can see so much of my own journey in that. And I know if you can just get over those resistance hurdles, you know, what's waiting on the other side is magnificent. Doesn't mean that it doesn't come with challenges, or, you know, there are things to navigate. It's always evolving, but it's such a better way of life, you know.
Oh, yeah. Every day is like a holiday now, whereas thinking I've got to go to work, it's like, it's painful. I mean, my last main job, Alternatives, I was a director of a spiritual organization. That was different in a way. I was a director, I was a decision maker, I loved it. So it was a really nice experience of loving a job that prepared me for this, which is loving doing it for myself, rather than I was promoting all these other spiritual authors and all these other, you know, teachers, and learning the nuts and bolts of marketing and running a business and event management was great. But now it was really time for me to, okay, before I leave the planet, I've got to spend the next 20 years doing what I'm here to do.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm doing.
Well, and
Helping others do it.
you know, I'm so grateful, you know, that you are, and you're just such a beacon of light and inspiration and guidance for so many people who are on this path. And it is tricky to navigate. You know, there's no there. Hang on, I'm going to rephrase that. I was going to say there's no manual, but there is. There's an internal one, but it's about being able to connect to that and understand it
Yeah,
and
exactly.
decode it.
Yeah.
Not always
Yeah.
easy.
There
And
was a
it's not.
brilliant book, I think it's called ET 101. Have you come across that book?
No, I haven't. I like
Oh,
that
it's
though.
written years ago, like in the 90s, I think. It's a manual for starseeds, ET 101, I think it's called. And it's written very tongue-in-cheek, very funny, you know, about, you know, the manual. Well, here it is, you know, and it just all the bits that you're going to meet in a very humorous and funny way. Yeah, it's a brilliant book, ET 101. I highly recommend. You can still get it on Amazon.
So I have two last questions, and then obviously wrapping up in anything that you would like to share. But was there a defining moment for you when you kind of came into the conscious awareness of your starseed origin, or was it a slow, gradual thing? Was there a, you know, I hear people talking about their moment. I know I had a moment that changed my whole life, and I know it can be in different ways. But what was that like for you in coming into that sort of awareness and knowing? And
Well, I had different moments. The first moment, I suppose, was I tried to leave the planet back in '87. It was too tough, too difficult, and my life was not a happy one. And so I tried to leave. I tried to leave the planet, and a voice, when I was kind of leaving, from spirit, said to me, kind of, "There's hope. Go back," you know, type of thing. And I was like, that was the first time I ever heard anything like that. And I was like, oh, okay. So I called for an ambulance type of thing, help, and ended up in A&E the next morning, you know, waking up to a load of relatives looking anxiously at me. But the good thing was the mask had slipped. I was living a life that wasn't mine, and I was on I did 10 years psychotherapy after. It was very slow, painful, like reconnecting with myself. But it was the first time I heard spirit. The second one was in '91 when my father died. And that was the moment where I decided there's something more to life than this. His death, the spell broke. And I went off searching. And I found that year very quickly all the things I needed. He died in January. And if you remember, the sixth sun energy started in July in '91. And that was the year I woke up. And probably around that summer where it started. I had this calling of just find something. You're here to do something more. leaving alternatives in the winter solstice 2012 was a major, because alternatives, this spiritual organization, been in my life for a long time, almost 20 years, and I was a director for 13. So it felt like a big shift for me. And that was the shift into this. 2016, after the dark night of the soul ended, really, I woke up one morning and I heard that voice again say to me, okay, time to teach about Starseeds and Ascension. And I did not want to hear that. I was hoping it was saying, welcome back, you know, hey, life's good, you know, we're connected with spirit. It was like, no, now go to work. You know, you've had your 6 years in the dark night, now get to work. And I'm like, give me a break. But all right, okay, all right, then I'll do it. I wasn't really keen, you know, I didn't really think I knew enough. But as I started, people started really flocking, and I was like, oh my gosh, I better. It was a very fast learning curve, really, about, well, what are Starseeds? What is Ascension? I'd heard about it, but I really didn't think I knew a lot about it. So I had to find out really quickly. So in the last 5 years, I've kind of learned about it, I would say. So yeah, and I think this year is a defining, I think 2021 is a defining moment year. I think this global nonsense that's going on, it's really pushed me to help find more tools to help people. So I put out recently a black angelic fire one, which is very important if people are worried about toxic jabs or toxic, you know, this idea of shedding, you know, where people have been jabbed and their body's starting to throw out a lot of toxic material, and unjabbed people are feeling this. I felt it. So the black fire, which was inspired by Magenta Pixie's channeling, actually, she talked about it. I heard about it, and then I tried it out, and it was like, oh my gosh, this is really powerful. Black angelic fire, clearing out toxic material in your field. So I'm being pushed to find more resources because of the nature of the time, really.
Yeah.
So that's my job, you know, for the next 20 years.
You. Thank you for doing your job.
That's all right. I'll retire one day and I'll just enjoy sitting on the beach with my sunglasses. But at the moment, you know, there's work to do.
There's a lot of work to do. Yeah.
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
Any sort of final thoughts of maybe messages to those who identify as being a bit different or a starseed, who are going through that transition? What would you say to those people? Besides, you know, looking at your resources, and I highly recommend that.
Yeah. You're not alone. There are a lot of the starseed energy is increasingly coming onto the planet. So whereas when I was born, there was very little of it, now there's a load of it. You'll find that even if you go to school, there'll be other starseeds in the school. You'll know them by their energy, their resonance. You know, there might even be some teachers that are starseeds now because of the nature of the time. There might be, there probably are. You'll find them. There are lots of resources online. Go look. There's loads of books on Amazon now about starseeds. Go look. Start connecting up with people that get you. One of the key things for starseeds is your weirdness is your brilliance, and a lot of starseeds, certainly in the time gone by, try to be normal. Normal is the worst toxic thing you could try. Hopefully starseeds don't do it these days, but in my day I tried to be normal. It was like being a round peg and squashing into a square hole. It's a horrible experience. Do not do it. Be yourself. Be authentically weird. It's your key to success, actually, because the world, certainly in terms of spiritual entrepreneurs, if you want to work for yourself, be creative, or even go into work in a creative company, be weird. There's a lot of companies that like weird these days. The big companies which are successful are the weird ones, you know, or even the small successful ones are the weird ones. Don't be average. Don't be mediocre. Don't be normal. That's my father said, get a proper job. My grandmother said, get a normal, secure job. And I put that together to be normal. That was a bad decision. When I made the decision to be completely weird, even though it freaked my kids out, it suddenly the world opened. Be weird.
Thank you. That, I mean, that's just perfect, isn't it? It's like following your path, being yourself, and it's amazing how life can transform it and change in that way. So
yeah, follow your bliss, like Joseph Campbell. Follow your bliss. Follow what gives you joy. Don't follow the logical, practical thing. Follow what gives you joy. It will lead you somewhere. It will lead you somewhere. Interesting.
I do have one final question, because honestly, I could talk to you forever. But you work with all different types of energies. Um, can you share what that's like in your work, whether you're working with a client or running, transmissions, workshops? I know that your work is influenced by angelic, by different galactics. Can you share a little bit about what that's like when you're working with those energies, and how you can feel into the different vibrations of, where that support's coming from?
So one thing I think I've trained myself over the years is to be flexible and fluid, have a flexible, fluid mentality and consciousness. So there are some people on the planet who are channels of one energy, and they become very familiar, and it's a wonderful path because you get to know them deeply, and that's fantastic. That doesn't seem to be my path exactly, although there are these 6 angels which I call all the time, the angels of the horizontal plane and the vertical plane. So there are these 6 energies which I'm very familiar with. I call the higher self and team in spirit, which I'm very familiar with. But teams in spirit change. So it's not like it's a fixed static. It does change as we change. But what happens for me is I get called to connect with different energies, and it's almost like having a love affair for a week and then the love affair ends. That's how it feels.
Analogy. Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, where'd they gone? Some in particular, what was it? I love the Egyptian ones. I do have a strong affinity with Isis. Isis comes back a lot, so and she doesn't completely go. Sekhmet. I had this beautiful Sekhmet experience for a week, and then she was gone. I had this beautiful lion race connection for a week, then they're gone. I had these golden dragons and then golden mantis for about a week, sometimes less, and then they're gone. And it's so beautiful. And then, like, where are you? We were just getting to know each other. We're just talking, come back. No, you've done your job. And they're off. I'm like, oh, all right. All right. They don't want me to get too cozy, too chummy, too, oh, I love you. They want me to be a bit edgy and a bit, oh, okay, next. Because, if I'm going to put out a lot of resources, I can't get too chummy with one lot, because that will stop me.
I think it correlates with your work, and how it's reaching so many different people who may have a very specific lineage and connection, but you're kind of mentoring in such a greater, whole. I think that's probably why it rotates, or that's what came to mind for me.
The other thing about it is, in the early days, they used to channel to me. They used to give me all the material. Now I say to them, what about a client may say, I've got this problem, and I'll say, oh wow, what about this one? And they'll go, yes, and it will just come through. Like there was one yesterday where this woman had a problem with her children, and what came through in the session, I was like, that's brilliant. Why don't I put that out? I said to her, I think I'm going to make this a transmission meditation, because it's so needed. There must be so many starseed parents with this problem. And so I tuned in, and it came through really quickly. I'm like, okay, let's do it. I'll probably do it today if I've got time, or maybe tomorrow. I'll throw it up.
That one for all the parents.
Starseed child, the Starseed parent-child meditation. I think that's what I'll call it.
Oh, that's so needed.
Do you have children?
No, not yet.
Oh,
not,
okay.
Yeah,
not
I
yet.
have
Not yet.
Babies. I've got fur.
Oh,
babies.
you've got your doggy babies.
Yeah, now. So.
Okay.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Steve. This has just been an absolute pleasure talking and connecting with you, and everything that you've shared, and the wealth of knowledge and resources that you put out to the greater Starseed Collective, but just for humanity in general.
Thank you.
So thanks for joining for this edition for World Unity Week. I hope everyone has enjoyed watching this. And of course, really encourage you to connect with Steve's work and look out for his up and coming book in September.
Yay.
Wonderful.
Thanks, Alicia.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks, everyone. Bye.